Last night, Bernie Sanders had a town hall with CNN, and look, he was asked what he can expect to be asked in every appearance like this. How is he going to pay for his programs? In this case, though, he came prepared with receipts.
I am really excited about getting a Democrat in office. And when I hear you speak, I get really excited. But I remember that Trump excited his base with a promise to build a wall with no real plan to pay for it. Your plan for free college tuition and Medicare for all seems like a way to excite the Democratic base, but with no real plan to pay for it. Now, how is your position in your campaign different than what Donald Trump did?
Oh, I think, Chris, I'm going to give this to you. I thought that question might come up. All right, here it is. This is a list which will be on our website tonight of how we pay for every program that we have developed. So I'll tell you exactly how we pay for it. We pay for it through a rather modest tax on Wall Street speculation. That is how we pay for that. All right? You will remember 12 years ago, the Congress, against my vote, bailed out the crooks on Wall Street who nearly destroyed this economy. I think a modest tax on Wall Street speculation right now to make sure all of our kids who have the ability and the desire get the education they need is something that we should do.
So look, that was a bold move. He knew he was going to be asked about it, so he brought papers and then put them back in his thing. That's the noise going out.
The control room loves
demonstrating
it.
point. Demonstrating a point. But anyway, look. So look, I was interested in seeing that. I saw that the Cuomo took a brief glance at it. I went to the website and looked in detail, and let's give you an idea of what you can find if you go to that, and it's all available right now. So on BernieSanders.com, it says, for instance, it will cost $2.2 trillion to make public colleges, universities, and trade schools tuition-free and to cancel all student debt over the next decade. Laudable goals, obviously. It's fully paid for by a modest tax on Wall Street speculation that will raise an estimated $2.4 trillion over 10 years. Now, obviously, for each of these individual components, there is more to it which you can find, and we can have a debate about whether the numbers work out the way he's saying, but it is all there. Hypothetically, that should cut off some of these constant repetitive questions about how you pay for it when it is available for you if you want to know.
Yeah, and also when you look at that figure for 2.2 trillion, you would assume, I'm forgetting the exact number of how much money is indebted to students, but that's a good amount of it. The $1 trillion figure, it would be cut into because the annual cost of paying for public colleges and universities tuition free actually is not that much.
Yeah, much of it's the debt.
Much of it's the debt. So that would just be the initial cost, but the way that the program would be sustained over time is actually quite cheap and could be paid for very easily by that very speculative tax that he's talking about. But it's amazing how he talks about taxing Wall Street and their trading in this nonchalant way when that just gives donors and wealthy folks a heart attack because that's how they make a lot of their money. But that's because of deregulation over time. It wasn't always that way. And it's caused a lot of problems, to say the least.
Yeah, and by the way, so like he's talking about, here's what it costs, here's what we're gonna raise, a direct one-to-one that you can see. But hypothetically, we could engage in the sort of talk around these things that you hear, for instance, when Republicans talk about cutting taxes. So they say, we're gonna cut taxes on the wealthiest people, and then they're gonna plow that money back into the economy. And so I know it seems like the government would make less money in tax revenue, but somehow it'll actually be more. That's obviously not how it works. These people already have more money than God. When they get more money, they don't suddenly spend it all. That's not how it works at all. Much of it ends up outside of the country. But for a regular person who hypothetically could either write a check for $600 a month to Sally Mae, or could go out and spend it on hamburgers and cars and TV and clothes and all that stuff. That is a very easy to understand constant stimulus on the economy. And that's not factored into this. This hypothetically could help to pay for it. And that's not even considered a part of this.
Well, that's absolutely accurate. And the fact of the matter is that the reason home ownership is down, the reason young people don't invest in the stock market at the rate at all of the older generations, also because of the fact that we lived through the financial collapse and know what devastation that can be. But part of that is because they have so much money tied up in student debt. And yeah, so the banks getting their interest payments from students who just want to get an education, or basically the students getting their money back and they're able to pump that money back into the economy, because wealthy people save their money, they hoard it. People who are middle class, poor people put their money back into the economy, and it creates a more robust spending system and a better economy for all of us.
Yeah.
But when you're actually just representing the interests of the powerful and couching it in pretending to care about the economy, that's what you get with Republican talking points, and even CNN's framing a lot of the time when they're talking about this very issue.
And a version of sort of what I was laying out there, some of the other ways that it's not literally in the calculations, but that it will be affected. That stuff is included in some of the more complex, more expensive proposals. So as an example, let's jump ahead to the Green New Deal graphic. They have that $16.3 trillion proposal, and then they break it down into a number of different components, including fossil fuel industry being forced to pay for their pollution. You have the wholesale of energy for a number of years before electricity in the US eventually transitions over to effectively being free, it's renewable obviously. Reduce military spending by scaling back military operations on protecting the global oil supply, a cost that is rarely talked about in forums like this. You have extra income tax revenue from jobs that have been created, as well as less social safety net spending that will have to be given out because people will have the jobs from this proposal. So some of these are more complex, but it is all there, and there's more information besides if you're interested in that.
Just an aside really on this. It's truly incredible that basically one congresswoman and a grassroots organizing group have forced the Green New Deal to be on the national conversation, as the litmus test for progressive climate change policy. Just a remarkable achievement that only took around 2 years. Really incredible.
It is. And we can't go through too much of what happened at the town hall, but we did want to show you one video of, he was asked about whether he's a radical, whether his proposals are radical, and he had a great response.
Slick giving me this piece of paper.
I know.
I couldn't pay attention. The criticism is there's a lot of detail in here. You can look for it for yourselves on the website. It is not matching the price tag that some put at about $30 trillion for the Medicare for all, but you get about halfway there. No. The question becomes, how do you get the rest of the way?
Well, we get there. There was a study, Chris, I don't know if you happen to see it. I don't know if anyone...
30 trillion over 10 years.
A study came out from Yale University, a number of epidemiologists, a really quite good study. What they said is when you get rid of all of the administrative waste that we have now, having to administer, can you believe that thousands and thousands of separate plans? When you get rid of all of that administrative waste, which other countries do, when you get rid of the profiteering of the drug companies, we can, in fact, pay for Medicare for all and substantially lower the cost for the average American worker. Now, you want to know how we're going to pay for it? Well, we can go on for several hours very briefly. Number one, for the average person, how do we pay for it today, Chris? You know how we pay for it? The average family in America makes about $60,000 a year. That family is paying premiums, deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses, and co-payments. That $60,000 a year family is now paying $12,000 a year for healthcare. It's an outrageous sum of money, about 20% of the family's income. What we do, among other proposals in there, is to say, all right, you are that average $60,000 a year family, you're gonna pay a 4% tax, exempting the first $29,000, leaving $31,000 of taxable dollars, which is about $1,200 a year. A heck of a lot better than what you're paying today. We also have a payroll tax. We have a payroll tax on employers, which will save them substantial sums of money. And because we're taking on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, nobody in America on the Medicare for all pays more than $200 a year for prescription drugs.
Okay, so that's my mistake, but it was a happy mistake because that video was great too, because he very clearly and succinctly broke it down, not just in terms of the absolute numbers that you need to know for paying for the whole program, but how it would affect an average family under this new program.
He pretty much did exactly what Chris Cuomo was asking him and what the media has been asking him to do this entire time. Will it affect any of the talking points that come out about how Bernie can't pay for anything? I want your prediction on this, John.
No. The funny thing is, like, I remember there was a moment like this at the last debate, and he broke down how we could pay for it. I think he referenced the Lancet study about how much money would be saved and how many lives would be saved every year if we switched over to a single-payer healthcare system. And the camera went to Buttigieg's face, and Buttigieg looked like he was in pain. It was inconvenient that all of these doctors had come together and pointed out that we could have it all effectively in terms of paying for it and saving lives. That should be a thing that we all then rejoice about. Okay, we can do it, let's get to that. But that wasn't the reaction from a Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was like, oh God, I don't want to have to acknowledge that. Can I just go back to my Medicare for whoever, ends up with it plan or whatever?
Yeah, well, he could have just debated himself on cable news around 9-10 months ago, praising Medicare for all as the compromise position. And yeah, Buttigieg has no core principles. We know this very well.
Exactly. Okay, very briefly, the video that I alluded to before, I made a mistake, but let's go to that, about whether his proposals are too radical.
Could you please share how you will allay the fears of those who see your political ideology as too extreme? How do you respond to Americans who believe we need to beat Trump more than we need extreme political policies?
I know if you look at the media, they say Bernie's ideas are radical and they're extreme, they're out of the mainstream. Let me just tell you, I don't think that that's true. Is raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour a radical idea? No. Is making sure that all of our kids have the opportunity to get a higher education, regardless of their income, because we're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free, is that a radical idea? No. This is a scientific poll. You hearing this? Is guaranteeing health care to all people as a human right a radical idea? Is addressing the existential threat of climate change a radical idea? All right. I rest my case.
See, that was pretty good. Let's see that at a debate, perhaps.
I love the call and response. He's done that before. He did that at that Fox News town hall when he just started running for president, and he asked, well, it was a sort of version of it. I guess it wasn't call and response, so just scrap everything I just said. But when he had it might have been, never mind, not important. He had the Fox News audience raise their hand about if they would be in favor of a Medicare for all type system, and it was quite overwhelming. So when he interacts with the audience, it does well. He does well. It's a good tactic that he has when he really has one mode. I mean, when you go to his rallies, it's the same speech every time. And so I like when he switches it up and gets to be a little looser in this kind of format.
Yeah, it's always funny when they the people on stage get surprised by the audience. It doesn't always even take Bernie. There was a live Fox and Friends where they had a crowd and they asked about, I don't know if it was about medical debt or something, and the idea was supposed to be that the crowd was like, no, everything's great. And all these hands went up and the hosts were like, oh geez.
I know, Brian Kilmeade's face melts even more than it already is currently.
That's rough.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.